Hi everybody, thanks for joining our discussion on water and youth in the climate discussion. My name is Lindsey Blodgétt and I'm a Water and Climate Coalition leader as a part and formerly under the World Meteorological Organization is supporting us. I'm joined by Hasmik, who is the president of the European Youth Parliament for Water. She also serves as a board member for the International Secretariat for Water. Hasmik, I want to first ask you, what's the role of water within this climate change discussion, and why aren't we hearing more about water here at COP?
Thank you for the invitation, Lindsey, and all the team. So, 1/3 of the world population lives in water-stressed areas. It means that the right to water of every third person is endangered. So we need to take this into account every time when we make decisions. The recent IPCC report one more time highlights the importance, and I can just cite one part of this report regarding water issues and water emergency around the world. So one of the most important conclusions of the IPCC report is that continued global warming is expected to further intensify the global water cycle, including its variability, global monsoon precipitation, and severity of wet and dry events. It means that food security is endangered. And that the public health is endangered. So water has a transversal role for all the sectors, so it's important to consider the nexus between water and other sectors, and also the water and security issues, because water issues are also an issue of national security. So decision makers need to take into account all this when they commit to something, or when they raise issues or raise problems.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. Also, in this discussion, Hasmik and we represent youth organizations, and so we're going to kind of share about our roles here at the COP and what we're doing to include more young people in the discussion, especially in policy making. So just to share a little bit about the Water and Climate Coalition, I represent as a leader, and we are integrating youth voices into the water and climate agenda that we're forming, pushing for more climate action, just as Hasmik pointed out, as a vital importance that we make sure that this is at the top of the climate agenda. But within that, we're advocating for more young people to be involved in the decision-making processes. In 2023, there's actually going to be a UN conference reviewing SDG 6, which is safe water and sanitation for all. And as a part of the coalition, as a leader, we will be hosting consultation meetings with youth groups from all over the world. We're actually deploying 13 interns to help us collect the voices of young people and get their perspectives on these different policies that are happening. As well as next year, we're pushing to host a water and climate conference, which we hope to have in the fall as a part of these processes. So I hope you guys all stay tuned for that. Also to mention the World Youth Parliament for Water, I was a former president of the World Youth Parliament for Water who is also involved in these discussions. And Hasmik, I want to hear more about the European Youth Parliament for Water, your involvement in these discussions, your top priorities. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. So, European Youth Parliament for Water, first of all, builds the capacity of young people to be engaged in the processes related to water. The process, it means from decision making, from consultation to the implementation of projects. So for us, it's very important that youth are represented on different platforms, and their participation is not just something artificial, but they can add value. They can add value. So participation for us, for youth, it means to take responsibility. So young people, especially European Youth Parliament for Water, we push that young people build their capacity. Also, they take the responsibility. In that case, they will also participate in the projects, and they will take the ownership of solution. That is very important. So it will ensure more sustainable future, and to ensure sustainability of the actions in general. So just an example of the youth engagement that recently within the UN World Water Quality Alliance, we we have launched the youth engagement platform for engaging young people and big youth organizations, in general local organizations that work on water and water nexuses worldwide. And with that engagement, it's a topic. The main topic is water quality. To see how to help young people to be engaged in it, and also to help them to be connected with science, with decision makers, and with all other stakeholders. We also work with the social engagement platform of the UN World Water Quality Alliance with the concept of local water forums. So to build this big network of water advocates worldwide, and share experiences, share good practices. Yeah.
I think you can probably agree with me. We've seen a lot of young people, indigenous community members. We've seen startup companies. We've seen volunteer organizations. We've seen different presidents of different youth organizations. There's a lot of youth involvement here. And to speak on the topic, in COI was happening right before the COP, and they actually released their policy statement earlier and focus on how to engage more young people in the decision-making processes. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but Hasmik, you were. Do you mind speaking a little bit on that engagement process?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure, Lindsey. Thank you for the question. So the global youth engagement were through two big conferences. First of all, it was in Milan with the pre-COP event, where young people gathered in Milan with delegations from different countries, and we had 4 thematic groups where we worked. One of them, where I was personally engaged, it was sustainable energy and green jobs, where every group they prepared their statement, and then we summed up all the statements, and then we gave this to the president of the COP26. The main question, like the main commitment of you, the main requirement, like the demand from you was that decision makers that accelerate the step of decarbonization in general. That the further you push this deadline, for me it's just a deadline, and it's typically with the word deadline, because further you push, more that deadline becomes bigger, and will cause that for many more people. So we all youth in 3-4 days we agreed to put like the deadline to 2030 for decarbonization and emissions reduction deadline, and also we shared, and we saw that the presidency has this willing to take the support of youth and bring it to COP26. That we saw now yesterday during the speeches of different world leaders, and it's very important. And so from one side it's a demand, the statement that we prepared during the pre-COP event and during this COI 16 event, and on the other hand it's a commitment by youth. Like we say we are ready, and we want this, and the ball is in your camp. So
that's terrific. And just to mention, there was youth from I think it was 140 countries.
Yes, exactly.
At COI, so it was very collaborative policy development, youth engagement, and also in capacity building workshops.
Yes, exactly.
And just to add to that, as Hasmik is the president of the European Youth Parliament for Water, and I was the former as the World Youth Parliament for Water, I know that we both share very similar visions for water as young people in the world. Back in 2018, we actually defined a declaration of youth in the water space. And Hasmik, I know that you also, your organization focuses on this kind of policy focus. Do you mind sharing a few messages from your declaration or policy?
Yeah, sure. So again, the message is that board leaders and all the stakeholders they take immediate actions, and they consider water issues and water emergency in this climate negotiation processes. This is like the main topic in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And I was going to ask you as well, do you feel like the actions at the COP are something to be taken seriously, or do you feel like it's another production for young people to feel involved but not actually involved? I'd really love to hear your opinion, because this always seems to be a topic. Are we actually involved? Are we just advocating? Are we just getting platforms? Or are our voices or our opinions and our innovative ideas, will they actually be integrated? What was your kind of feeling at the COI?
The work of influence, the work of achieving something, it cannot be at once. It's kind of like you build a house. You cannot build a house at once. You need to put stone on another stone. And I feel analogy. Now that you've put a lot of stone to this house, and that will have more impact. So more you speak, more you are engaged, and they show their commitment, sooner we will achieve to sustainable solutions. So it's very important that you, from all parts of the world, they raise their voice, they show their commitment, that they struggle for, they fight for their right to education, to participation as well. So it's very important that they take this right and they push it forward. So yes, so we both can just call youth to not to be passive and work more and more, fight more and more.
Yeah, I like that analogy that you used of building a house, because I feel like my time in the World Youth Parliament for Water was so much about kind of building this foundation to make sure that even the water community knew who young people were. And so I really love that kind of analogy, because it's so exciting to see how over time, probably young people weren't really heard or recognized, but now there's events like the COI, there's the World Youth Forum that happens in Sharm el-Sheikh, and all these different organizations, even in the UN, that are having youth as special envoys. So I think you're right. I think we've laid the foundation, and now we're building the walls. And let's see, in a way, how high we can raise the roof. And to that point, at the Water and Climate Coalition, as a leader, I think that's an excellent platform of seeing the role of youth amongst different world leaders. Myself and another youth representatives having a voice amongst other world leaders, too, including presidents and a few prime ministers. And we're getting to really push for policies and being considered as one of the leaders amongst there's 17 of them. So it's a real honor to represent youth in that capacity. But I think I also feel a real sense of empowerment, and that I'm not there to just show myself as a young person and one with background in water management and policy making, but there to actually kind of raise the roof, if you will. So I just wanted to add that, because I think it's an exciting time to be a young person with climate action, and yeah, it's really exciting. Wanted to ask kind of one more final question. We're here, there's been world leaders, we've been passing by, we've seen celebrities, there's really a buzz here. We hope that all of you viewers really get to kind of sense the importance here. What's your one message, if you were to sit at that table with all of the presidents, prime ministers, the decision makers making climate decisions, what would be your one message to them?
Well, my message would be very concrete and very concrete. So access to water and sanitation is a human right, and it needs to stay as a human right and the number one priority, no matter the political affiliations or political views or this political games. So access to water and sanitation as a human right needs to be accepted by all the countries present here. So in that case, we will have more sustainable solutions. And European youth are standing for that, and also standing for democratic governance of water with participation of all stakeholders, including youth, specialized youth as a stakeholder.
That's terrific. Yeah. I would also like to add to that. My one message, if I had the honor to sit amongst the presidents as a young leader, would be to really think about water within the climate agenda, and noting that it really does need to be at the top. If we say something in the water community, which I'm sure you've heard of so many times, so what we say that if climate change was a shark, that water would be its teeth. And so in the way that you experience climate change with changing weather patterns, you experience drought, and you also experience flooding. So those are that's the absence of water and the overabundance of water in a way.
And polluted water.
And polluted water. It's all included. And so it would be to pushing for, like Hasmik mentioned, SDG 6 within that agenda, pushing for safe water and access to all. That's honestly where my heart beats, is to making sure that especially our developing countries have access to safe water. Also in the US, I only learned like 2 years ago, there's 2 million people in the US that don't have access to safe water. It seems unheard of, but it exists even in the developing countries. So making sure that is addressed as a human right. So I also plead that case. And together, I think Hasmik and I are here to push for more youth involvement in the water and climate agenda. And thank you. Yeah, of course.
Yes, and also that they acknowledge the right to water and sanitation, especially also in the armed conflict zones that we see now. Even though there is COVID, but are people in different parts of the world who are suffering in poverty or because of that armed conflicts. And of course, their right to water is endangered, and they cannot fully enjoy that right. So, for example, in Middle East or in South Caucasus, in Nagorno-Karabakh. So it's very important that world leaders take this on high level, and that human rights are respected in all parts of the world, even during the armed conflicts or post-armed conflict zones.
Yeah, that's an excellent point on transboundary water cooperation.
Exactly.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Hasmik. This is a pleasure to meet with you, our audience, on this special topic of water and youth in the climate agenda.